All right, guys, we have finally come to a point in our semester where we are confident and proficient in our drawing. Everyone knows how to render a three-dimensional object onto a 2D surface, demonstrating light. We know that the creative process starts with what? Thinking, looking, and doing. Well, now we're going to transition all of that knowledge and apply it with color theory, okay? So what we're going to do today is get introduced into color theory, exactly what it is, and we'll be here for the rest of the semester. So no more drawing in black and white. Now we're going to try to figure out how we can start to make our drawings look dynamic by adding color. But there's a science to it. There's a systematic way to make sure that every time we do a drawing, it looks correct. Things are balanced. It's exciting to look at. It's inviting to look at. And with all of that information, we're going to operate with the understanding of everything is based and centered on the color wheel. Today we're going to go into depth about that. We're going to go through 1.1 all the way to 1.7, okay? And then we'll start with our assignments, all right? So download your color theory textbook. It's on Schoology, and then we'll get started on chapter 1. All right, so chapter 1 is talking about the color wheel. We're going to go into exactly what that is so that we can understand how to use color properly in our works of art, okay? So let's start off with it. So what is the color wheel exactly? The color wheel is a circle with different color sectors. Each one of these is a sector, all right? Used to show the relationship between colors. Yes, colors will have relationships. So let's start off at yellow. This is obviously the brightest color, all right? This is the brightest color on our color wheel. Opposite would be the darkest color on our color wheel, okay? And we'll learn a lot of characteristics about the relationships that this color wheel has within itself. Now, when you have the color wheel, primarily you start off with yellow, but there's other options that you can start off with. Sometimes you see them starting off with blue. Sometimes you see them starting off with red. Either way, they're all still make up the color wheel. As long, here's key, is each color is placed in a systematic order right after the next, okay? So let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are 12 colors that make up the color wheel, all right? And we're going to go into detail about what each of those color groups are and how they make up the color wheel. So first, let's start off with all the different color combinations and color theory pictures that you'll see. This is a very elaborate picture of the color wheel in color theory. It breaks down all the different harmonies, which are different color groups that focus on a certain type or group of colors. We'll learn more about that. But as you can see, this is much more than 12 colors. Even though this is much more than 12 colors, it's still primarily based off of those 12 colors that we have on the color wheel. They're just adding more with tints, tones, and shades. This is a pretty basic color wheel, and this is the information that you will need to know. You will have a test in 2 weeks on the color wheel, the color harmonies, the color groups, tints, tones, and shades, and everything. Now, let's look back at this first color wheel. You see how this one went yellow to yellow orange? This one goes yellow to yellow green. So again, it doesn't matter as long as the colors are in the correct order. All right. Now look at this order, and this is what you want to get ingrained in your head. No matter if you're going yellow to yellow orange or yellow to yellow green, you just have to make sure you know what the next color is after the color that you've mentioned. All right. Here's another example of the color wheel, and these are separated into the 3 groups or harmonies that exist. You have primary, tertiary, and secondary, and we'll go into detail about what each of those mean. But these are 3 different examples of what a color wheel looks like, and it's just a circular dynamic composition where you can see how the color spectrum is laid out and what colors are in sequence. So let's start off with the most basic understanding in section 1, primary colors. Primary colors are colors that cannot be mixed When I say cannot be mixed, you cannot take two colors to get back to the three that you started off with, okay? So if you were doing a painting and you needed a primary color, you would get the raw pigment from nature, mix it with a binder, but you cannot mix two things to get that. And the three primary colors are known as red, yellow, and blue. This should be a refresher for you. This information has been ingrained into our heads since we've been in kindergarten. Some of us has forgotten, but it's okay. I'm going to remind you now. Your primary colors are red, yellow, and blue, and the reason is being I cannot mix them. All right, we cannot mix them. This is a work by Piet Mondrian, and this work only focuses on primary colors. There's black and white, but it still is just depicting the primary colors. Here's red, here's yellow, and blue in a geometric pattern of sequences. Okay? Section 2, secondary colors. So secondary colors are created by mixing two primary colors together. So I would have to mix red and yellow and blue, or yellow and red to get my secondary colors. So here I have green, which is yellow and blue, purple, which is red and blue, and orange, which is yellow and red. These three secondary colors are on my color wheel. So if I go back to my color wheel, I've got my primary right here, red, yellow, and blue. My secondary, I mix these two, I get orange. These two, I mix green. These two, I mix purple. All right? So that's how I get my secondary colors. If I want to mix my tertiary colors, that's the next harmony on my color wheel. I have to take one primary and one secondary. Now, all of my tertiary colors are two names. They have two names. They have a primary name and a secondary name. So, for example, yellow-orange is a tertiary color. Yellow is my primary, orange is my secondary. Yellow-green. Yellow is my primary, green is my secondary. So if I go back to my color wheel, here's my tertiary labels. See that? Now what you'll notice is everywhere you see a tertiary, it will be in between a primary and a secondary. That is because it takes what? One primary and one secondary to mix my color. So this is red and this is violet. What color is this? You've got it. Red, violet. This is violet and this is blue. What color is this? Blue, violet. That's correct. Let's jump over here. I've got green and yellow. So what is this? Yellow, green. So as long as I have a primary and a secondary on my left and right of my color, then I know I have a tertiary color. All right? So my color wheel is made up of three groups: primary, secondary, and tertiary. After I have my color wheel created, then I start to get into what we call harmonies. And those are different groups that focus on a certain group or number of colors and how they can visually enhance a work of art. Okay? Analogous colors are 3 to 5 colors, no more. Usually we try to stick to 3, that are next to each other on the color wheel. And the reason why analogous colors are so important is because they transition light sources. So for example, when you used to do a value drawing and you would shade from black to white, you wouldn't do that anymore. Now black to white would show that I'm doing what? I'm getting light to dark. Well, if I want to get light to dark in a composition, I can go from yellow to secondary. That's an analogous color scheme. They're getting darker. I'm using 3 colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. Let's say I want to get even darker. I can go all the way to my red. Those colors start to transition towards a darker light value on the color wheel. All right, so my analogous colors are transitional values that I can use, whereas 3 to 5 colors next to each other on the color wheel. All right, see this? Green, yellow green, blue, blue violet, violet. I've got all those in there. So whenever you want to demonstrate light source and you don't want to include white or black, use your analogous colors. Those are wonderful to transition values of light. Your next color harmony are complementary colors, and those are colors that are across from each other on the color wheel that make each other stand out. And you see them every day in everything. So if you look at these two paintings, this has apples and this is limes. The plate is red, my limes are green. The colander is red. The apples are green. The girls' ballet gown dresses, are blue. The background is orange. When you go to a color wheel, any color that is opposite each other on the color wheel is considered a complement. So primary yellow, its direct opposite is purple or violet. Okay? Primary red, its direct opposite is green. Now, I wonder, where do I see this? Christmas. What about yellow and purple? Where do I see this? Los Angeles Lakers. Color theory is present in everything that we do. It's present in fashion. It's present in holidays. When we have our shoes, when you look at a plate and how the food is appetizing. Your complementary colors make things stand out and they make things pop. All right? So, if I ask you to do a drawing that is blue and I want it complemented, you should know that you would have to incorporate orange into your composition. Then we have warm and cool colors. Warm colors are colors that demonstrate a stronger sense of light. They're warm, they come forward, they creep out at us really, really intensely. When you have cool colors, they are subdued, they're more in the back, and they're very restful. When you look at the color wheel, your warm colors are colors that exist from yellow to red, and sometimes we can incorporate a lime green depending on how much yellow is saturated in it. My cool colors are greens and purples and blues. They're opposite the color wheel with the red, the oranges, and the yellows. All right, so when you have a composition that has a warm colors in it, it's going to come forward, it's going to stand out, it's going to be very loud and vibrant. On the opposite side, if you have something with cool, it's going to be low, it's going to be subdued, and it's going to not come out and stand out as strong. Your last color groups are tints or harmonies, tints, tones, and shades. A tint is when you add white to a color and it makes it brighter. So if we look at this yellow, this is a pure hue. Hue is another name for color. If we look at this pure yellow, we can see that if we add white, it'll get lighter and lighter and lighter. If I want my color to get darker, it will get, excuse the dogs, if you want the color to get darker, it will have black mixed into it. And you can see in increments, it gets darker and darker and darker. Now, what about if I want to neutralize it? If I want to soften it up and not let it be as intense in my composition, then I can add gray. All right? So this is our resource. This is what we're going to be using for the rest of the semester. You will only have to remember what the color wheel is with the 12 colors. And then from here, we'll always go back to our resource. There's nothing wrong with having information that we can always go back to. All right? So now we're going to start implementing color theory. So at this point, I want you to go back to Schoology so we can find out what our first assignment is that deals with color theory. Happy coloring, guys!